welcome back to Golden Woodworks. This is Woodworking POV number 5. My name is Brent. We've got a pretty detailed, pretty big job going on the next couple of weeks. It's going to be some walnut built-ins underneath a staircase. So I spent all day yesterday trying to figure out the angles. I've built a temporary rough opening that's the same size that's in the house, and the angles are the same. So as long as my built-ins fit within this opening, then I know that they should fit in the house. But my cabinets will sit on this base here. It'll be 4 individual units, and you can sort of see the spacing that they'll have there. They'll be just over 24 inches wide each. And then obviously this one will be a lot shorter, and then it'll just grow as it gets to the top there. So I spent a good amount of time yesterday just trying to get this sorted out, and then all of my material here, which I've got some here, I've got some right there, I've got a piece over there. I've set this one over here because I'm gonna just pretend like it doesn't exist until I absolutely need it. I think I can get everything out of all of this here. Obviously these are way too thick at the moment. So I was also trying to figure out how I'm gonna get these resawed. I'm gonna have to cut a 5-inch rip, and then I'm gonna have to resaw that. All right, less talky, more worky. Shelves. So this piece that I said would be the bottom, well, is actually going to be the top, because the top angle is longer than the base, if that makes sense. And these boards are pretty long, but they've got this void down here, and I want to use a very little epoxy, if any epoxy at all. So to get the bottom, I can get it out of this clean section here, and I won't have to get into that, versus if I use this for the top, then I would have some of this showing somewhere up here or down here, and I just don't want to do that, so I'd rather just cut it off and maybe use it somewhere else. So I'll get my top pieces out of this piece right here. So while I'm on the topic, what I'm trying to do is use the same board for the entire bottom and the entire top. That way the same grain pattern is flowing through. I'm not sure how much you'll notice because it will be divided, you know, 3 times. There'll be 4 different units. So maybe I'll be the only one that notices, but I think it'll look good, and it's easier for me to keep track of what material I need, because if it's all on the same board, I don't have to get multiple pieces from different boards. So those 2 cuts were not mission critical. I was just getting off some excess. So I can use this offcut, and then the offcut I set over there, I can rip these down to be the casing material. And then these I have to resaw to become the vertical dividers of each unit. So I want to get 3/4 thickness out of it. They're 2 inches right now, so I can definitely get the 3/4 out of it. And then that'll leave me 1/2 inch. And then I might even resaw that again to 1/4 inch or a little less, so I can use it for the back panel, so I can avoid using any plywood. So the longest piece I need out of this board and this board is 86 3/4, and then I think it's gonna lose a foot each time it goes down. So I'll need 1 at 86 3/4, and then 2 at whatever this measurement is, and then so on down the line, and then I'll need 1 at the end. So that's what I'll do now. I'll square that end off. I'll cut it to, I'll say 87, just to give me a little bit of room, and then I'll rip it in half with my track saw, resaw those 2 pieces to 3/4, and then glue them back together. So a lot of steps, but that's the only way that I can get these to the right thickness without planing all this extra material off. Alright, I'll try to give you a visual of what I need to do to get these resawed. So I've cut it right down the middle. Eventually I need this width back, so I want to keep these two boards together so that way the grain matches up and it doesn't look like I cut it. But since my table saw doesn't cut 10 inches tall, so I need to resaw this at 3/4, the same for this one. And then I need to do that one more time, glue these back together. That way I have my 10-inch wide board back, but then they'll be at 3/4 thick. And then I'll run it through the planer and hopefully it'll look like one board again after I glue it back together. So I went ahead and cut it to 3/4 inch thickness. Now I just have to glue this back together to get my 10-inch wide board back. And then I can actually start putting pieces of the built-ins together. So when this was one piece, it would have been like this. Alright, we've got those run through, and I don't even know what glue joint you're talking about. So I'm just cutting my vertical dividers here, and I'm trying to stick to the theme of all of the tight grain towards the back of the cabinets, and all of the plain sawn or whatever you call it towards the front. That way when you're looking at it, the grain will go down and then wrap around and again back up. So all the tight grain is towards the back here, and then you've just got matching patterns, and I'm going to try to continue that theme all the way down. So I've already got the bottom, that's one board, and then it'll go across and then up with that short piece, so that matches there. And then the top won't match, but it'll match going from cabinet to cabinet, if that makes sense, so it won't match going down. But I've got these pieces, a couple of them cut out, and so far I'm able to get all of the tight grain towards the back side. So like this piece will go right here, this piece will go here, and then the tight grain will wrap all the way up. And then it'll kind of match as it comes down into here as well. Well, I was really hoping not to use this big piece, but I'm gonna have to use it for the door in this unit over here. And so since that's so thick, I'm gonna resaw it like 4 times so I can get at least 1/2 inch door, which I think would be plenty for the size of it. And then I'll use the other little piece for the baseboard that'll go across the front and see what's left out of it. Maybe there's gonna be a little bit more thinner material like this right here that I can use for the back panel. I'll probably cut that as deep as it'll go and then finish it off with my router flush trim bit. And yeah, this chunk has a fair amount of bow in it, because I've got just a little bit showing there and the same at this end, but then here in the middle it's like just over 1/2 inch. So I'm just gonna cut that out, and then I'll rip it straight on the table saw, and hopefully it doesn't bow anymore. I don't think it will. Famous last words. So now I should just be able to clean this up with my router. What you didn't see before I started banging away on it was I scored a line with a razor just so that it hopefully would not break any closer to this clean edge here. So, looks like it worked. Now I just have to trim this off. It'd probably be beneficial every once in a while to use my brain and just clear all of this off with my track saw and then route it off instead of trying to route this whole chunk off. Now we can flush trim this off without creating a handheld projectile. Alright, I think that's going to do it for this part 1 of the walnut staircase built-in. Part 2 will be me just assembling all of the parts that I've been cutting. I've got a lot of parts cut already, a lot of parts glued up. So I've got the baseboard, the door that's in the back, the vertical divider covers for in between here, a bunch of the back material. I've got the top to do. In the next video, I'll probably start it out with me cutting the top angle on all of these dividers, and then I'll install the top board. And then after that, I think all I have to do is sand all of these pieces and finish them. Then I can assemble these boxes and put the back on, and then cut the shelves, of course. So this has been part 1 of the walnut staircase built-in. My name is Brent, and thank you for watching.